right, so this is like officially a fairly daunting room, but I want to start by saying thank you so much for coming to a 9:15 session after the party night last night. I really appreciate it. I know a lot of you are probably really needing agua, so if you need to run out and get a drink, totally fine. But I really appreciate you spending your next 45 minutes with me. Okay, so first, I'm going to introduce you to me, talk a little bit about me. Then we're going to talk about the data, move on to the 13 things. That is an incredibly aggressive number for a 40-minute talk, but whatever. Then we'll do a super tiny review, and then maybe, just maybe, if I speak really quickly, we'll have time for Q&A. If we don't, I will hang out back as long as people want to keep me there. So I'm very happy to talk to anybody afterwards, okay? Whew. All right. Tom, a love story. Hello, my name is Tom, and I work on email at HubSpot. I have a confession to make, and since it's just a couple of us hanging out, I feel comfortable making it here. My confession is that I love email. I really do. I know what you're thinking. You're like, email? Email's inconsistent, and it's hard, and sometimes it's mean. How could you love email? I'll get to it. I think you will too. My goal here is to hopefully have you loving email a little bit more too. All right. So let's do this. I didn't always love email. 1,851 days ago, I didn't work for HubSpot. I worked for a startup that I had founded. And at that startup, my job was email marketer. And like many of you, I was really just a part-time email marketer because I had 9 other jobs to do. But even as a part-time email marketer, we had a product that people liked. And they kind of liked us, and they sort of knew us personally. So we were able to grow our list. We grew it from 1, this guy, to 3, my co-founders, good start, all the way up to 77,000. And it was 77,000 people who had voluntarily given us their email address. Should be easy, right? When you get people to voluntarily do that for you, just share it with you. It kind of wasn't. I wanted it to be way easier than it was. In fact, my engagement was kind of in the toilet. Also in the toilet were my unsubs, and swirling around the top were my spam complaints. Yes, spam complaints. I'm not afraid to admit it. I got marked as spam, even when people had voluntarily given me their address. Meanies. All right. So that was the time when I didn't love email. I didn't love it at all. But this crazy thing happened. My startup, which was still so awesome and had all those people interested in it, was kind of running out of money. And just across town was another company that wasn't running out of money, and they had a job opening. And it was to build a new email tool. And I kind of felt like I knew email. Like email and I, we were together. It was a rough relationship, but we were tight. So I joined HubSpot to build email. And that's what I've been doing for the last 5 years. Okay. So the data. HubSpot customers love to send email. They send a lot of email. Every time I turn around, they have sent more email. So we looked at a whole bunch of their email. We looked at 1.7 billion, with a B, marketing emails. We looked at 157,000 unique campaigns. And finally, we looked at 202,000 recipients. But what did we look at when we looked at all those things? Let's kind of dive a little bit deeper so you understand all the stuff we were trying to consider as we put this together. So we looked at the obvious stuff like deliveries and opens and clicks and spam complaints. We looked at stuff that was a little bit less obvious. We looked at the devices they used. We looked at the recipients' actual, who they were. We looked at their contact properties to try to understand them. We looked at the source. How did they get on that list? How did they get in that portal? Why were they getting email? And finally, we looked at the duration. How long did they look at that email? Did they actually like that email? Did they not? Did they just glance at it? Did they delete it? Whatever. So we looked at all this stuff. And when I was sitting here preparing for this talk, working with my buddy Mike, who did a lot of the math because he's smarter than I am, I realized that's a lot of data. It is a lot of data. It is so much data. But I want to tell you a little bit about the data and the things I'm going to discuss today. Nothing in this talk is going to guarantee to move any one of your metrics by 10%, or lower it by 3%, or improve this, or make that go away. I can't do that, certainly not from up here. But what I can say is that anything I talk about was statistically significant enough. I know we all don't feel great about statistics right now. But anyway, it was statistically significant enough to move the needle, which means there are things that you might want to consider. There are things that you might want to try for your marketing. Okay, so the 13 things. The other thing about this talk is that this talk is a lot of different talks put together. For some people, it's going to be a talk about things to start doing because you're not doing it yet. Maybe you're new to the role. Maybe your company just hasn't done a lot of email marketing. For other people, you might think you have all the answers. And I might tell you some things to stop. Some things that kind of aren't so great that maybe it would help you. Other things, you might know all the answers, right? So I'm going to tell you to keep going, but maybe give you some tips on how to do it better. Thing number 1, you are what you eat. And so is your marketing. So we knew this, we know this, it's just obvious, right? Garbage in, garbage out, that kind of thing. But we were trying to figure out a way to really understand it and bring it to some slides to show you. So what we came up with was looking at the names of every single list that our customers imported for this set of data. We looked at the names of all these lists. And we learned some interesting things about the things that they were importing into our system. We learned that there were 3 words that really stuck out. And they didn't stick out for good reasons. We learned that arg stuck out. It's a weird one. We'll get there. We learned that rank also stuck out, and that the one that really stuck out was inactive. So arg. Arg was a tough list. Lists with the word arg in it only had open rates of 13%. I think I understand it's because their persona is pirates, and Wi-Fi is terrible on the open seas. The next word that I really fell in love with was rank. And I fell in love with it because their open rates stunk at 11%. Whew, that's a tough list. But it's way better, 3.33 times better than inactive. Inactive had a 3% open rate. But there's a better way to look at the data for inactive, because a 3% open rate is a 97% didn't open rate. Think about it the other way. That's pretty terrible. If you know a list is that bad, oh my goodness, stop doing this. Don't import it. Don't send to it. Because every time you swing and a miss like that, every time you send to something that is just truly kind of junky, it hurts your domain reputation. And it hurts your sending reputation. And it hurts your chances of success with the people that aren't on lists with those names. Okay. There is no one size fits all. It's a visual. Yes, that's Miles wearing my outfit. Why are you writing this email? Like you're sitting down to pen this email. You're ready to go. It's Tuesday. You got something to do. Why are you writing this email? There's a ton of reasons that are all legitimate and some that are less so to write that email, right? Do you have a reason? Are you just trying to look wicked busy? That's not a great reason. Just going to throw that out there. Not a great reason. So what is that email supposed to do? If you don't know, if you don't have a plan, if there isn't a goal for that email, back away from the keyboard. You're not ready to write it. Because if you don't know, the recipient's not going to know either. They're going to be just scratching their head and wondering why you emailed them on Tuesday morning. So let's roll through a super quick way for you too to stop with these kind of terrible Swiss Army knife emails. There's actually a 0 here before 1, and that's think of your persona, right? What are you trying to get that persona to do. Once you know that, pick your goal. After you've picked your goal, you can define what success is. Who knows what it is? It could be page views. Maybe it's reconfirmations. Maybe it's long duration reads. Maybe if your blog isn't doing so well, you start sending the full articles in the email to see if you can entice people to consume it there. Do you really need them to view on your website? Maybe you don't. So after you've defined what success is, you build that email. Go for it. And then everyone loves options, so this is an important part, and the numbers back us up here. Give people options. Throw a CTA in there. Also have a link in text. Every additional link helps you get to your goal, and it all moves the needle. Some people won't click a CTA. They don't like big red shiny buttons. Other people always click the titles. And still others won't click anything until they get to the bottom of that paragraph, and you've won them over. Give them options. It's worth it. And then finally, rinse, lather, repeat, and do this for every one of your emails. You can't do a one-size-fits-all email. It just doesn't work. If you focus, you then get to the point where you understand what you're testing. Otherwise, you're just kind of in the dark. One of the most important things I learned from my grandpappy was to measure twice and cut once. And this is an unbelievably prescient message when it comes to email. Now, I'm going to shock you all by sharing some really crazy statistics. Do you know what helps emails do well? I'll tell you. Personalization. I know, you're amazed. But it actually really does work, right? I don't entirely understand why, but for some reason, this really works. I don't get it, but it does really work. When I see Dear Tom, I engage more. But stick with the basics. If you know, and you're about to know, just me and 1,500 other people, that I wear size 11 Vans. I wear them almost every day. A little bit Mr. Rogers going on here, but that's fine. If you know that I wear size 11 Vans, please do not include that in an email to me, a marketing email. That's creepy. It's weird. And when you keep going down the contact record, like hole, and keep digging deeper, ooh, Tom wears shoes, Tom does this, Tom does that, you lose people. And it actually hurts your engagement. Your most engagement will happen with un. Stick with name, it works. Stick with company name too, don't get creepy there. People don't react to a lot of company stuff. There is nothing that hurts you more than being impersonal by screwing up your personalization. Here are just a few awesome nuggets that I received after agreeing to get up in front of a daunting number of people. It's totally fine. It's a family name. I know it's a little weird. Most of my friends call me Firsty. It's fine. This one, though, really kind of gets me. I pay these people money for something every single month. And it's kind of real money. They know my name, and yet they still call me customer. They should be personalizing. Instead, they make me kind of mad and thinking about their competitors. Okay. So let's roll through a cheat sheet real quick. First step. Does it work with a real contact? Try it out. Make sure. Do not send something to default value. Oh, this is amazing, Dick. Step 5, test. Bet you didn't know that was coming. Step 4, we're counting down. This is like old Letterman. Don't get too personal. Wow. Step 3, I honestly don't know what it's going to do. It's amazing. Make sure that it matches. Now, this one I didn't talk about yet, but this is just a personal pet peeve. It drives me crazy when Dear Tom is in size 32 and the rest of the email is in size 11. Are you yelling at me? Did you not check it? It looks weird. Just make sure it looks the same. Make sure it looks like it was actually typed by a person. And number 2, did you set up that default value? What if you don't have the first name for that person? What's it going to do? Don't call them default value. That was awesome. Okay. Number 4. No reply. I think you meant no open. Now, unless you have the weirdest first name ever, and you don't because no one does, don't ever send something from no reply. Seriously, no reply is the worst. There is nothing in any of the models we developed that hurt engagement more than sending from no reply. Just don't do it. Personalize that from address. This, opposite of no reply. This has an incredibly positive impact on your engagement. This moves the needle in the good direction. Have it come from a real person. How awesome would that be? A real person. I know what you're thinking. You're like, oh no, if it's a real person, it's a real inbox. And if it's a real inbox, they're going to get like some bounce backs and they're going to get replies and Don't you want replies? I think you do. I think you really want replies. And there's a reason you really want replies. You really want replies because when you look at engagement, opens are good. Yeah, you got an open. You wrote a good subject. Congratulations. Pat yourself on the back. Clicks are definitely better. When you're getting viewed by the Googles and the Microsofts and the other inbox providers and protectors of the world, they like to see these two. But you know what they really like to see? Replies. Replies are the boss. Because when you reply, it shows, wow, I really do like this person. I know this person. I want to talk to them. Replies are hugely important. You want replies. In fact, statistics again. If someone replies, they are more likely to open or click later. So don't you want to get people to reply? If anything, just make up a second email address for the person sending. Just make up one that's just a marketing address so they don't get pummeled in the wrong address. But it works. 5. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. They say never turn your back on an audience, but I'm going to do it. Oh my goodness. Tuesday! What are you people doing? Tuesday? Tuesday is such a bad day to send your email that I put it in Comic Sans. I'm doing a presentation in front of 1 million people and there's Comic Sans behind me. Tuesday is terrible. It is terrible, and it is the most popular day of 2016 so far. Maybe we can buck that trend in the next month and a half. Can we please? Thursday is pretty bad too. If you want an open, and I think you probably do if you're spending 45 minutes after going out last night with me. Wait, you didn't go with me. Anyway, misspoke. Anyway, if you want an open, Friday or Monday. And if you really want an open, do it in the afternoon. For some reason, I don't know the reason, emails do pretty well in the afternoon on these days. There's some sort of like a digestif after lunch. People just want to settle down with some email. Or maybe email's easy, I don't know. But they actually open and engage in the afternoons. Give it a try. If you can get a little bit crazier, Sunday or Saturday, they do well. If your email has a CTA, Saturdays are awesome. Now, I know what you're thinking, but that's the weekend, and people don't do work on the weekend. Hey, look, I don't know if they have a bad home life or what, but they do. And interestingly enough, they read your emails for longer on the weekend. So unless you don't want them to read your emails, try it. Just try a test. Send some. See what happens. Tuesday to Thursday are dead to me. And Wednesday, I'm sorry, you hung out with the wrong crowd. You're dead to me too. Live a little. Live a little. Give them a break. Nothing says I love you like buying your deets from a third party. So something interesting shook out as we were looking at that name stuff back in thing number 1 with the picture of my son eating ice cream, right? Remember that one? So something interesting happened. There was a bunch of names that shook out. I wonder who those names were. Yeah. Do you want to know how they did? All the lists that were imported that had the names of people who sell super hot leads and contacts and all that other stuff, yeah, I'll tell you how they did. Emoji poop is how they did. Yeah. Not good. Not good. In fact, in general, they were worse than the pirates. And they were worse than the stinky rank. They weren't as bad as inactives, though. But they were pretty bad. Don't do that. This is my second favorite slide of the entire deck. If there were ever a slide to take a photo of, it's this slide once I'm done clicking and it's all up there. When someone engages with you and fills out a form and gives you their email address, they have 4 times the engagement than imports. Isn't that crazy? Maybe not, because you're at a conference called Inbound. But anyway, it is crazy. It's like absolutely unbelievable that it works this well. But it does. Now you can take a picture. This is like a better picture now, because like I really like the you can't buy happiness part. Anyway, Inbound works. And I'm going to tell you one more thing that's on other slides that are on another deck. They're somewhere in the ether. 2015. I had that same slide, almost, kind of, different colors, different fonts, but a similar slide, and the number was 3x. Forms were 3x imports. So something interesting has happened. When I saw, wow, it's 4x now, I dug into it. Imports have gotten worse. Forms have gotten better. Inbound is getting better. Would have had more impact if I had a slide. Anyway, let's go. Number 7. Email is not your scratch ticket. And I'm not judging you if you spend that extra $1 on a scratch ticket. That's totally cool. But just don't do it with your email. But first, I have some bad news. You're sending spam. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're like, I'm not sending spam. Maybe she is. He definitely is. You're sending spam. The reason you're sending spam is because the definition has changed. And unfortunately, there's no ex post facto in email. So what's happened? Now we have this word, gray mail. Gray mail is email that you send to people who you have permission to send to them. And maybe they were even kind of into you at one point, but you know what? Over time, your email hits their inbox forever to remain bold and slowly fade to the bottom fold of the page and disappear. And they never engage with it. And this happens over and over. And when this happens, it's just their way of telling you that they're not that into you anymore. This is the new spam. It doesn't mean that you bought their list off the back of some truck. What it means is that maybe they're just not ready. Maybe they're just not into what you're saying anymore. But it definitely means they're not engaging anymore. So how do you know? Well, the way you know is that they tell you. And they tell you very clearly by not opening. Once people stop opening, it's time to move on. They're gray mail. So, a little bit of setup. Do you remember young love? Do you remember what it felt like to awkwardly hold someone's hand when it didn't really feel right, but you held it anyway because you just didn't know? When you stood on the tops of mountains for sunsets, do you remember those sunsets? This is your first shot at sending someone an email when they convert through a form. You have never had more luck than when they're trying to figure you out and you're trying to figure them out. And they might even remember who you are when you send that first email. In fact, that first email has a 77.7% chance of getting engaged with. You will never have better odds at anything ever. Make that one count. But what happens if they don't engage? If they ignore your first one and get to your second one, ooh, plummets to 26%. That's a tough drop-off. Bless you. And it just gets worse. This is what it looks like if they continue to ignore you. Do you want to know what gray mail is? This is gray mail. They're not opening your email, but you're still sending. This is 100% gray mail. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're like, oh, but there's this like super tiny chance. Maybe, maybe, maybe. No, Lloyd, no, you don't have a chance. Don't send those emails. Because every one of those emails that has like a 97, 98, 99% chance of not getting opened makes you look like a chucklehead to every inbox provider. You look like you don't care about people, and that's not what you want. You want to look like you care about them. So what you have to do is you got to suppress the folks who aren't engaging. This is vital. When they get to the point that you start becoming gray mail to them, suppress them. It doesn't mean you're giving up on them forever. They can come back in. They can decide later that they love you, but right now they're not ready for you. So it makes no sense to continue to bombard their inbox. It's not helping. This gives you a shot to live and email another day. And that's what you want, because if this is someone's way of telling you, you know, maybe that first email was okay, but it kind of went downhill from there, that's okay. You want to listen, and hopefully they'll get to a place on their journey later where they're ready to engage you. Okay. Inside tip. Anybody here a HubSpot customer? That'd be a yes. Okay. If you look at a contact record, there's a super secret new property. That super secret new property is called sends since last engagement. You want to know where you are on that chart? Check out that property. You want to make a list of all the people that have ignored you when you've emailed them 25 times? That property is your jam. Okay, so let's review. Don't be that marketer. Listen to what people are telling you, even if they're telling you by not sending, or by not opening. Don't send gray mail. Suppress the people that are unengaged, and you will see benefits. You'll see benefits because your open rate's going to go up because you're not sending to people who don't open. And you'll also see benefits because inbox providers and protectors will know. They will see that you're not sending to a huge portion of people who are not opening. And that makes you look like a superstar, and everybody wants to look like a superstar. Okay. Slight detour. For this slight detour, I'm going to talk about 3 situations that come up all the time with my teams. 3 situations that come up all the time where we're dealing with customers and trying to help them through hard times. Here they are. And we're going to talk about this. Amazing. We're going to talk about what it means. We'll talk about how worried you should be, because that's very important, because you need to judge whether you should care or not care. And then finally, we're going to tell you what to do next. This is the least funny part of the presentation, but maybe the second most important. So what do you do when they unsubscribe? Well, first, what does it really mean? Well, it really just means that they're, you can't please everybody all the time. That's okay. An unsubscribe is not a bad thing. It just means that you're not giving them what they want. And they're telling you in the nicest way possible. They're not marking you as spam, which is what some people do. And they're not letting you be gray mail so you look bad to Gmail. But how worried should you be about unsubscribes? Honestly, you shouldn't be that worried unless you see things start to go up. If you look at similar sends and that number is moving, that is a problem. And if that's the case, I would definitely look to see what changed. Maybe you have a new source. Maybe your content got a little weird. Maybe your frequency went up. People don't generally unsubscribe when frequency goes down. They do unsubscribe when frequency goes up. So if you just started to crank it up because you need to push more leads, you're going to pay for it with unsubscribes. Finally, what should you do next? You probably want to find what changed. You want to spot check some people. You want to look at the people who unsubscribed, maybe find out what they did. But overall, unless that number is changing in a crazy way, don't worry about it. You can consider suppressing people that are like on the borderline level, because you want to kind of make sure that you're sending your best email to them, not just Tuesday's email. Maybe you have to up your game a little bit, at least with lists. Okay. So what do you do when they stop opening? Now you'll notice I'm trying to build tension because things are getting worse as I go. So when they stop opening, that's usually because you're not inboxing. And this is a problem. This you should be paying attention to. Because if you're not inboxing, it means you're missing expectations of the recipient. You're just not giving them what they want. I don't know what they want, Maybe you don't know either, but you're not giving it to them. You should definitely get ready for worse. If you see your opens really dropping, it's a leading indicator of other problems. So you should be pretty worried here. Like, this is one to pay attention to. It will not go unnoticed, whether it's by the people who provide the email or the protectors. It will not go unnoticed. It is always a leading indicator of spam complaints and unsubs, or just disappearing. Like, there's actually worse than the spam folder, and that's when they stop you at the door and just drop you on the floor, and that does happen. And if you're not having inbox issues, dollars to donuts, you're gonna. They are coming. Okay, so what should you do? There's a typo on this deck. Great. The one that you download won't have a typo. Suppress your unengaged. If your opens are falling, suppress your unengaged. Show the people that are protecting inboxes that you're listening. When you up your inbox rate, up your open rate, right, of the people that you're still getting to, it will help. Look for the source of the problems. It is very infrequent that there isn't a source problem. It is often a list, maybe from your VP of sales who was like, send to this. It could be maybe a weird new sweepstakes form you're running that's just getting a bunch of junk thrown into it. Who knows? Find the source, though. There's definitely one. And then finally, focus on your subjects. Test, test, test. You got to get people to get past that subject. We'll talk about that in a minute. Get past that subject and actually open. Okay. This is like the saddest puppy here. Because when they mark you as spam, what are they actually telling you? Your reputation is at risk. Spam complaints do leave a mark. Inbox problems, if you're not having them right now, oh, they're coming, definitely. You will stop getting into inboxes, even with people who were kind of engaging with you before. Because what can happen after a lot of spam complaints is you can actually end up getting blacklisted. Now let me talk about blacklists for a minute. Everyone's kind of scared because they don't quite get, like, what do they actually do? First of all, there's really bad blacklists, and then there's blacklists that don't do all that much, right? There's a lot of blacklists that have no impact on your ability to get into the inbox. But there are some that will knock you for a loop and take 40% of your mail offline. So before you freak out if you find out you're on a blacklist, investigate the blacklist and look at your bounces, and it will tell you if you're actually seeing impact from that. Okay. So how worried should you be? You should be very worried if you're getting a bunch of spam complaints. And if you see them going up and to the right, that is definitely wrong. Find the cause now. It's either a new source, it's either bad forms, it's mixed expectations. It is something. Find it. Stop sending email. Not often I say this, but if stuff is really going down and you're getting a ton of spam complaints and things are getting ugly, you are not going to help by doing more. It's kind of like water damage at your house. How often does water damage get better on its own? Never. Ever. I tried. It didn't work. Never. Stop sending. Okay. And what do you do next? First, you fix what's broken. Kind of obviously, right? Fix what's broken. Fix what's broken. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. You have to fix what is broken. Okay. So what if all of a sudden you're getting no unsubscribes or spam complaints? You're killing it, right? Isn't that awesome? Best email marketer ever? Maybe, but maybe not. Because you know what? Someone can't mark you as spam. Someone can't unsubscribe because the links don't work from the junk folder. This can be the biggest indicator of not inboxing that you can get. Without like creeping up behind people and peeking over their shoulder to see where your email is, you'll never truly know. But this will sure tell you. Okay. So what do you do when you want to know more about this stuff? You've got two options. One, personal time with Tom Monaghan. Probably not your best option, but I do love talking about this stuff. So that's option one. Option two is video personal time with Tom Monaghan and a bunch of other people. You should definitely, this is the only plug I'll throw in here, you should definitely check out our email marketing certification. It is legit. There is a huge section on deliverability, and if you really want to up your game as an email marketer, understand and put into practice deliverability like superpowers. It will help you. Okay, plug over. It was worth it. You sat through a plug, and now you're going to know how to build the perfect subject line with data. So we did this, we had this model. We built logistic regression. We found all of the perfect words to build your subject, the words that will make someone open. But you know what? Sharing them with you would probably be about as dumb as the TSA tweeting a picture of all of the master keys to luggage. I actually did that once, not the tweet, the sharing the words. Like 4 years ago at Inbound, I talked about this. And I put a list of the top 10 words from successful subjects on the big board that was much smaller than this one. And for a month, the only subjects I saw coming through our system were jumbles of those 10 words. I'm not doing that again. So we're going to do something a little differently. Let's talk about stuff that doesn't work. Physicians worry, thinking less hand washing. Not good. That's a bad subject. New career, cybersecurity bullying webinar. Oh. But definitely the best, or worst, depending on your mood today. Hey, eliminate thinking, welcome pain. Too soon? Now, if you look at this page, you'll note there's 15 words on there that just happen to not be awesome for subjects. Oh, take a picture. Okay. All right. So, we kind of know some of the things to not do. What should you do to make a good subject? The first thing is you got to do, read it aloud. If when you read it aloud, it sounds like the title of something that that dude from high school who you know on Facebook because he friended you and now he's all over your feed would post, if it sounds like that, delete it. Start over. You don't want to sound like that, because what happens is, if you actually do have this incredible clickbait hook, people will hit your email and they will bounce immediately and you'll have burned that bridge. It is not worth it. Okay, so how do you get the best subjects guaranteed? So here's some stuff that's driven by stats. First, customize and personalize. I don't know why, but once again, it works. When you throw stuff in that subject that is customized and personalized, you get more opens. Further, you actually also get more clicks later on. Your engagement goes up. So for some reason, people are tricked into thinking that you know them and want to help them. Pretty cool. I hate this part. I didn't want to say this, but emojis like really work. They do. And we got the stats to back it up. I don't know if they work for your business. Emojis could work. Maybe you're a plumber from Duluth. I can think of a perfect emoji for a plumber from Duluth. But I don't know if they work for you, but they work, and they work right now. That is until, like Tuesdays, we ruin those. Anyway, emojis. Finally, read it out loud. If it doesn't sound right, just start over and test, test, test. Okay, so here we are. Lucky number 13. What do you do when email stops working? So pretty much every year, people start talking about how engagement has slipped in the last year. Opens are down. They talk about it's harder to get into the inbox. The end is not near. The sky is not falling. You know what is happening? The divide is growing between people who send email who know what they're doing and people who send email who do not. I want you all to be in the former category. You all can, and it will just allow you to distance yourselves from your competitors who don't put in the effort. So let's do a super tiny review. We're not going to talk about all 13 things. We're going to talk about 3. Number 1, Tuesday. Oh, please stop with the Tuesday. Live it up a little. Test. Number 2, have the courage to suppress your unengaged. Now, I know this is hard because you're going to have to tell probably a manager who's like, how's our email list doing? That your email list is doing great, but you're sending to fewer of those people. That's a hard conversation. I get it. Try to get them to understand that it's quality, not quantity. And try to explain to them what gray mail is. Odds are, if you look at their inbox, you can point out gray mail in their inbox, and then they'll understand. You can point out something from Banana Republic. You can point out something from one of your competitors that's in there and still bold and unread. Finally, treat other inboxes as you would have them treat your inbox. And thank you everyone for coming. I really appreciate you getting up this early.